Hello, welcome to Lisle's Vintage World. In this video I'm going to do some history book reviews where I take some history books and review them for you. Two of which today are ones that I very kindly sent for review from Pen and Sword, so thank you Pen and Sword for sending me these books, they're much appreciated. I did request both of them, and the other book I have to share with you is just one off my bookshelves. Right, shall we get started? The first two are the ones that I was sent for review, starting with Life in Miniature, A History of Dolls' Houses by Nicola. Lisle. Apologies if I've pronounced that incorrectly. This is very much what it says on the tin. This is a book about the history of dolls' houses, or baby houses as they were once called. And we go all the way back from when we first know about and have evidence of dolls' houses, which is actually antiquity that I was fascinated by. And then we move forward to kind of present day really, and how dolls' houses have developed, how they are now very much played with by children, but actually how they are collector's pieces and have been collector's items for such a long time. There are also beautiful images throughout and some really rather impressive. I mean, look at these. Look at this. Look at those stairs. Yes, absolutely wonderful. I really rather enjoyed this book. I was someone as a child who had a doll's house because I played with Barbies as a kid. Then when I was older, I did briefly look at getting myself an actual doll's house, but realised how expensive it is. They're stunning, but they are expensive. So if you kind of would like one, but you can't afford one, read this because it's lovely. And you can read about some of the really nice, quite famous dolls' houses, some of the oldest dolls' houses that are still around, and how some very famous people, I won't spoil anything for you, have had dolls' houses in the past. Really enjoyable book. Very niche book, I will say, but actually very, very enjoyable and highly recommend it actually. The next book I adored. This is The Daughters of George III, Sisters and Princesses by Curzon. I've read a book by Catherine, well actually I think I've read a couple of books by Catherine before and really enjoyed them. I have to say I do think this is my favourite of hers though. This book was wonderful. So often when we get books on George III, we talk about George III, we talk about his family, we talk about the Hanoverians, we talk about his sons, the Prince Regent of course, who then became George IV, but often neglected are his daughters. Now George III and Queen Charlotte had 15 children, and 6 of which were daughters, and this book gives almost like a little biography of each of them, and it's beautifully done. So the first part is actually almost like an introduction to the family, of how the family kind of grew, how they had sons first of all, and then they were like, yes, we would like some daughters now, yes please, and kind of how the birth of each daughter kind of came about in the order sort of thing, and then we go through each daughter's birth all the way through to death. And these women's lives were actually quite tragic really, because George III and Queen Charlotte really didn't want to let these girls go. I mean, often you have daughters for political alliance. You know, you have sons because they're your heirs, but you have daughters to make those alliances across the world with trade, politics, religion, money, whatever it may be, wars. And George III and Queen Charlotte just couldn't let these girls go, and so actually they lived quite difficult lives. But I have to say I adored this. I thought it was so beautifully done. Each daughter had her own time in the spotlight. Nothing was, you know, too much for Catherine to put in. She really showed these women warts and all sort of thing, and it was lovely to hear about all of their stories in such a beautifully written way. I did really love it, and I think, you know, it's really put the spotlight on them that I think that they have definitely needed for a really long time. I would love to read a biography of each of them, like a full-length biography. I think that's where I'm going to go to next, because I just love women's history, and if you're like me and you love women's history, you will love this. It is brilliant. Go read it. Amazing. What else can I say? It was wonderful. I really enjoyed it. And last but not least, one from my bookshelf, and I have to say this is probably the book that I liked the least out of these 3, which makes me really sad, because I was really looking forward to it. And it's Perfect Wives in Ideal Homes by Virginia Nicholson. This is a story of women in the 1950s. Now, As you know, I love vintage, hence Lisle's Vintage World. But sad to say for me, I didn't love this book because this book uses case studies and oral history as its predominant force of primary source evidence, and I don't mind it, but this is pretty much all the evidence, and it was a bit too much for me. And funny enough, I watched a video a while ago, and I can't remember who it is, but they said, oh, they wish there was more, you know, oral history and case studies in said non-fiction book that they were reading. And I was thinking, oh, this book would be perfect for you. And I think I much prefer like evidence-based, like on a paper form. I do like diaries and things like that, but I don't know, oral history for me, I think I just had a bit too much of it. I think I was oral historyed out by the end of it. I mean, it's good. It's good to learn about women in the 1950s and their lives, but I think perhaps just not the way that I like it done. If you like cases and oral histories, I think you'll probably really like it, but it's just not my thing. So there we have it. Those are the 3 books that I read recently in terms of history. Let me know what history books you have been reading and if any of these 3 have taken your fancy. Thank you so much for watching. Take care, and I shall see you again soon. Bye for now.